It's the boy, Bubba, let's coming through. Hella clutch, flawless, can't be touched. It's your boy, Bubba, let's. Yeah, I need that hot take. I need the truth and everything that is not fake. So tell me.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Bubba Let's Sports Podcast. That is episode 210. Bubba Bunch, the Super Bowl is set. Super Bowl 55 in Tampa will be the first time in NFL history that the home team of that stadium will host it. And it could possibly be the first time in NFL history that a Super Bowl host wins the Super Bowl. Look, we got a lot to talk about. And specifically in the Green Bay Bucs game, I think we'll only talk about the Chiefs and the Bills for like maybe 10 minutes. But most of this podcast will be Packers, Bucs, and not only just the game, but the aftermath of what we're going to see in Green Bay. I was devastated after this game. I felt like it was ripped from my heart, the possibility of this being one of the best games in recent history. And, of course, the sour taste in my mouth that I had on that late call pass interference against Kevin King on Tyler Johnson. It just devastated me to my core that the referees once again rule and judge the outcome of this game. So I was left disappointed and just heartbroken that this game was once again taken away from us by officials that should not be a part of the game or just the outcome of the game. And so I just wanted, after that happened, I just wanted some time to just relax, not overreact. And I wanted to watch this game again. I just came back from the gym. And guess what I was doing the majority of the time while I was on the treadmill? I was watching the Green Bay Packers and the Bucs game. I may be a psycho for that because the multitasking I had to do so I wouldn't fall on my face while also trying to analyze this game. Very difficult. Wouldn't try it at home. But I did it anyway, so I'm sorry for the people at Blink Fitness on, North Tarrant Parkway. If you're listening to this or watching this, I'm that weird guy that was watching football during his run. But I needed a refresher. I needed to see if I was overreacting about the call or this whole idea that the refs were in part of the Bucs winning this football game. And I just wanted to see if I'm just trying to follow the trend, right? Because everybody has the scapegoat of saying, oh, well, the refs won it for the Tampa Bay Bucs. So after watching this game the second time, I will say that toward the end of the first quarter, early second half, that to me is exactly what I wanted 60 minutes of in this game. That time where they're going back and forth, the defense are making plays to get off the field, but the offense is finding a really good rhythm. They're just going back and forth as far as going into the red zone, scoring. They're just two great offenses. And then it started to shift right toward the end of the first half of okay, this is slowly getting away from the Green Bay Packers. And that is when you get the interception from Aaron Rodgers. And Bunting was the man who intercepted it. One possible holding call that the refs didn't call. At this point in the game, this is where you start to see the trend of the refs saying, we're going to let it go. We're going to let these guys play. It was a bang-bang play on that specific one. You could have called it. You could have not. So I'm not too worried about it. And I was thinking to myself, okay, this is good. We're not just going to throw flags all day. We are going to let them be physical. These are really good secondaries. These are really good wide receiver cores. I like the matchup, and I want to see it just be physical. And if they're going to complain about not getting a holding call, about a pass interference call, at least it goes both ways. And for most of this game, it did. Then it's the touchdown given up by Kevin King, which is the second one he's given up that day. The first one was on Mike Evans. I can't blame him for not being able to take one-on-one Mike Evans in the red zone and in the end zone. So I felt okay with how Kevin King was holding up. I'm kind of surprised that Jair Alexander wasn't on Mike Evans more often, but also he was on Chris Godwin. That is the replacement to Antonio Brown. So it's a tough thing for the Green Bay Packers secondary to deal with, which I've been backing them up for many weeks, probably the entire year, and I just put my foot in my mouth after this one. But it was that Kevin King giving up touchdown on Scotty Miller. There was like less than 10 seconds to go. 6 seconds when they snapped the ball. And you know that they're not in field goal range. They don't have a timeout. They don't have the range to kick the field goal or any time. So they're going to hit the end zone. And they double cover everybody except for Scotty Miller. But the guy who's given up the touchdown already is one-on-one with Scotty Miller. Kevin King has to realize that at that point, there is no other choice but to cover the end zone. As long as you don't give up the end zone, you can stop them at the 1 and be like, well, that was close. But at the end of the day, that is a successful stop because there was no time. That's bad awareness. And it's really bad logic to think that it's just you're going to casually cover Scotty Miller. And if Tom Brady sees him open, he's not going to throw to him. That's the whole idea because Scotty Miller was the only one on that left side of the field. Everybody else was put in the slot on the right side or on the outside. So they're going to go to one side of the field. And then it's either Tom Brady chooses the one-on-one or Tom Brady is just going to chuck it and says, why not? We got Mike Evans, who's like 6'4", 6'5". It's like we can deal with Mike Evans reaching up for that ball. Whatever happens, at least we take a shot down that point of the field. But he saw Kevin King not being aware enough of Scotty Miller beating him immediately. Scotty Miller beat him immediately. And it was just a really nice throw by Tom Brady into the end zone. That's on Kevin King without a doubt. There's no excuse for that against Scotty Miller. You got beat. Your name is King, and you got beat by a guy named Scotty. Scotty. You go into the half with that touchdown, sour taste in your mouth. You're down 21-10. This is starting to feel like the first matchup in week 6. I felt like I was watching the exact same game because as soon as the second half starts, you get the fumble by Aaron Jones. Tampa Bay scores quickly. It's 28-10 like that. And it just feels like, okay, this is going to be the same exact game it was in week 6. And this is where it's just starting to get away from the Green Bay Packers. Credit to Aaron Rodgers for just saying, I'm just going to put this team on my back. I haven't done it in a while. Maybe I'm too old for this. But with the amount of meditation that I do, I think he can handle. He starts to take over. And one of the things that I did see in week 6, and it's pretty obvious, it's not something very just secretive, but the idea that his edge protection was nowhere to be found. And the offensive line struggled against a very good pass rush in the Tampa Bay Bucks. Jason Pierre-Paul has probably had 2 of the best games of his career against the Packers this season. This man is an inspiration, and for what he's had to deal with off the field, with losing a hand in that 4th of July accident, he had to deal with another car accident in 2019 from what I heard on the radio. It was a good reminder. This guy has been through a lot ever since his good prime days in New York. But he's found a really nice home in Tampa. And that pass rush, who I love Vita Vea, did a phenomenal job of stuffing the run in the middle. But this entire defensive line did a really good job of stopping Aaron Jones, who got injured in this game with a chest injury. And they did a good job of handling Jamal Williams, other than a few plays, maybe on underneath throw or maybe like a typical run. A.J. Dillon, for me, felt like he needed more contribution. And the utilization of Dillon in this game was questionable. We're going to talk about eventually Aaron Jones moving away from Green Bay. That's a possibility. He's wanting big money, and I don't think Green Bay is willing to pay that, especially with the idea that A.J. Dillon has been really productive in certain moments, and the dude's a freak of nature. So if he can be an Eddie Lacy 2.0 without the fat, I'm going to go with A.J. Dillon. And Aaron Jones, you can go to New York with the Jets. You can go to Miami, get your money there because they have a lot of cap space, but we just don't do that here. You're not going to be the specialty guy. We love you. I love Aaron Jones. But again, you know me. I don't like the idea that a running back should get high praise money and quarterback money of some sort when we've seen Todd Gurley, Ezekiel Elliott, and a lot of these big name guys not live up to the contract. Aaron Jones can be a really great back in the NFL, but I'm still not going to pay him that amount of big money when I have A.J. Dillon and maybe keep Jamal Williams for cheap. So Aaron Jones, I don't know if this is going to be his last game as a Green Bay Packer, but it wasn't a nice way to go about it. I mean, the entire rushing attack for the Green Bay Packers only had 67 yards in total, while Leonard Fournette almost did that entirely with just 12 carries. But I think the Tampa Bay Bucks defense is just really damn good. They were missing 2 starting safeties. One of them was out, Antoine Winfield Jr., out at the beginning of this game. And then their secondary was plagued again by, was it Jordan Whitehead? I think it was Jordan Whitehead who got injured, or, no, it's Jordan Whitehead. I could be wrong in that. I'm sorry. But the other starting safety for them went out in this football game due to a shoulder injury. And so they were left with backups. And if I'm Aaron Rodgers, this was a point of the game to where he needed to come back, needed to step up as the MVP. And it felt like it was going that way, right? You started to sense the comeback. And even without the 2-point conversion that was dropped by St. Brown, it was deflected of some sort, but I still feel like St. Brown should be able to catch that. It would have made it a 3-point game instead of a 5-point game. But you felt like the Packers are in good spirits because they had gotten a quick touchdown after a interception, and that's where they got the 6 points, didn't get the point after or the 2-point conversion. And then immediately after, that's where Aaron Rodgers goes onto the sideline and says, get a stop. That's all we need to get a stop, and we're back in this football game. If it wasn't for that Kevin King botch at the end of the first half, they would have been leading in this game by that point. But Tom Brady still goes out with his offense. They're doing what they do, typical running game. They're moving the ball, but the Packers defense just needed one play, and that's exactly what they got with Jair Alexander on his first interception. Dude, I can't stress this enough about how important it is to capitalize on those turnovers, because that's exactly what the Bucs did in Week 6. That's exactly what the Bucs have done early in this football game with the fumble and the interception. So you, as one of the best offenses in football, the best team in the NFC according to your record, and based on the schedule, based on your strength, you are the best team in the NFC because of your offense. You got to capitalize on those turnovers. And on that drive, you don't get any points. Fine, I get it. Bucs defense is still really good. So then it's back on the Packers defense to make another stop. They get another stop with another Jair Alexander turnover, interception. This is the point of the game where I felt like it was just getting sloppy. I didn't enjoy watching this game at that point because I felt like both of these teams are giving each other chances to get back in this football game or win this football game. So that's where it left a sour taste in my mouth. Like, neither of these teams are giving me the sense that they are ready for the Super Bowl or they deserve to be in the Super Bowl. Tom Brady is throwing 3 interceptions after, like, he threw 3 touchdowns, looked really nice. I mean, perfect performance out of Tom Brady so far. And then he just throws outrageous throws down the field due to the pressure, and he's throwing 3 interceptions like that. And so I'm thinking, well, if you're the Packers, if you don't capitalize on this, this is your fault. You've had 3 turnovers. You get 6 points out of all 3 of those turnovers. That is a shamble out of a offense that has been considered the best in the NFL, and then with the MVP leading the way. I get it. the edge protection and that offensive line did not do the best. But I still felt like Aaron Rodgers had his moments where he was missing throws, where he missed wide open receivers. There was one play where, what was it? There was one play where I think it was the offsides, to where he had a free play, threw it to the right side of the field to either Lazard or Valdez-Scantling. And on the opposite side of the field, Davante Adams has no one within a 15-yard radius. And I'm not exaggerating. He literally did not have a guy on him for 15 yards. I'm waiting for the camera to allow me to see someone from the Bucs side at least close the gap. There was no closing the gap. And Aaron Rodgers missed it, which is shocking to me, especially because it's your first option. If you're Aaron Rodgers, like, it's Davante Adams. Like, you can't just avoid or ignore the fact that your best receiver on a free play, you can just chalk it up. If it's an interception, fine. You got them on the offsides. You go back and you get a 1st and 5. But to automatically go to the right side where it's more jumbled, more packed, you don't even look at Davante Adams once, a little concerning for me. But I go back to just the fact that they did not capitalize on the 3 turnovers and they only got 6 points out of it. That's ridiculous. It's unacceptable if you're the Packers. And mind you, this is still a time to where we're seeing calls, or no calls, I rather should say, going both ways. You know, there's holdings on the Packers wide receivers. On the opposite side, some of the physicality that's going on with Jair Alexander, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin. Like, I could see it going both ways of, like, calling it, but they're not calling it. So I understand. Like, I'm glad that the refs are not trying to get involved as much as possible. Call the obvious ones. And I'll get back to that point. Call the obvious false starts, offsides. They were missing a few of those as well. There's some argument that they were missing some offensive penalties on both sides. But I'm fine with that. I am fine with that. But you had multiple opportunities to get back into this football game and take over this football game if you're the Green Bay Packers, because the Bucs gave you multiple opportunities. That's where I'm kind of like, well, I'm just not impressed by both sides. So then let's get to the fourth quarter. Let's get to the elephant in the room. On that drive, well, actually, let's talk about the other elephant in the room. You have one of the most dominant quarterbacks we've seen in decades with Aaron Rodgers, who's having a MVP year. He is going to win the MVP this year. And multiple times I heard this weekend, aggressive teams win. Aggressive teams are the great teams. At this point of the game, when you're inside the 20 with just over 2 minutes to go, you have 3 timeouts, you have the 2-minute warning, and you're down by 8. If you have no timeouts, if you have no 2-minute warning, and you're still down by 8, I can understand. I can possibly make an argument that you take the field goal and go for the onside kick. Now, most teams that do that are not Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers, because you have trust and you have so much just confidence in your offense to get it done inside the 20. I said red zone efficiency is going to be very important in both of these games, and this is the argument itself. You're inside the 20. They're stuffing you. The Bucs are stuffing you inside the 20. You're missing some throws. You just feel cluttered in the secondary. And it looks like Aaron Rodgers is frustrated at this point. He's trying to make a play, but he has no protection. He has to step up in the pocket. And I feel like we've seen so many times to where Aaron Rodgers does that on a consistent basis, even if his offensive line is not perfect. He can just roll up or roll out or step up, and he can either use his legs. He's a very underrated runner, in my opinion. I mean, he was running when he had like a torn calf in some playoff games. So he can run it, or he can just throw a dart to Davante Adams, Robert Tonyan. Secondary was doing a phenomenal job of coveraging to allow the defensive line to get to Aaron Rodgers. I mean, there was a lot of coverage sacks in this game. I think they ended up with a total of like 4 or 5, which is very similar to what you saw in Week 6 on the first matchup. So great job by Jason Pierre-Paul and a lot of these guys. So on that fourth down, or on the third down, excuse me, can we all agree that Aaron Rodgers 100% could have ran that in for a touchdown? He rolled out to the right, and he had wide open space on that right side. So immediately in my head, as the play is going on, I'm saying run it. I don't know why you're forcing the ball to, no matter who it is, you're forcing the ball. You can run it. I can't stress it enough. That's an easy touchdown for Aaron Rodgers. I've seen it before. And he made that conscious decision to not run it in. He decides to throw into double coverage of a pinch on Davante Adams to where both defenders are on opposite sides and they're just going to clutter him if they try to squeak it in that small window. If that happens, I would have said great, but you still could have ran it in. It would have been a lot easier. But you risk the fact Aaron Rodgers had a lot of risky throws in this game. A lot of risky throws. Not only that interception by Bunting, but he also had a lot of them where I'm like, that was a dangerous throw in deep coverage. This was one of them where I just didn't understand the fact that he wanted to force the ball and try to be the hero too much in this game. So for me, that's a bad decision by Aaron Rodgers. So it's a collective effort of Kevin King, of Aaron Rodgers, the running game, the offensive line. The Packers just did not play like the Green Bay Packers that we've seen all year long, or the team that was dominating the regular season for the last 2 years and unfortunately lost badly to the 49ers in the NFC Championship last year. So I'm saying, okay, you're on fourth down and you're so close. And initially I was saying like, okay, you take the points, but I just don't understand. Maybe it's because you have 3 timeouts and a 2-minute warning. But can you trust your defense that has been giving up big plays all year or all day long when they haven't all year long? Do I want to put full trust on this defensive front to stop the running game while Leonard Fournette is resurging as a running back? Initially, I'm just kind of like, I have faith in this defense, but once I thought about it, I was like, there's no way you want to do that. And it's just more of the fact that you have Aaron Rodgers. Like, how do you not trust him to get it done? And even if you don't get it, let's say you fall short and you're at the 1-yard line, that puts Tom Brady and that offense in a very tough situation to get a first down with your 3 timeouts and the 2-minute warning, to where if you are able to stop them and get them on a fourth down, that is a very tight punt formation that you can honestly rush and possibly get a block, get the ball back again on a safety or a touchdown, whatever. But that puts the pressure on Tom Brady and the offense because you have the 3 timeouts. You have the ability to get back in this football game with 1 possession because they were so close to getting that 2-point conversion the first time. It was just a batted ball by centimeters. But I'm trusting Aaron Rodgers on like a design run or him to just get it out to Tunyon really quick like he did last week against the Rams. Remember? That just, 1-2, boom, to Alan Lazard or to Valdez-Scantling. I forget. It was that quick screen that was just, or no, it was Davante Adams. I'm forgetting names. But it was just that quick throw. Like, you could do that at the 1-yard line. I'm saying it's just like, you'd rather take the odds of the Bucs getting the ball back at the 25 and then allowing them to open up the playbook to where they've been doing really well all game long of moving the ball, rather than missing the fourth down conversion, getting them at either the 15 or the 5 or the 1. And I just don't, I can't justify the explanation. I can't justify the reasoning behind that. That's a bad decision by this coaching staff. I'm very surprised that Matt LaFleur, who has done great things with his organization and has had a really stellar record in these first 2 years, makes that decision. And the consequences just fell immediately because on the other elephant in the room, on that last play to determine whether or not the Bucs or the Packers go to the Super Bowl, crossing routes by very talented and very fast wide receivers like Tyler Johnson, by Chris Godwin, Scotty Miller, very dangerous territory to play with on a fourth down. The pass interference call itself, it is the rule. If you tug on the jersey, and I mean he was stretching that thing out, that is an obvious call. Obvious call. It should be called. What I just said earlier, if it's obvious, if it has to be called, you do it. If it wasn't for Tyler Johnson flailing and falling over, there is a strong chance that they don't make that call. Because my only problem with this call, it's the right call. It should have been flagged. I get it. And I am not mad about it whatsoever. So my reasoning and my, I guess, feeling about this game has changed over the last 24 hours. The ref or the field judge was, I think they said 25 yards away from this play. I mean, he was deep in the secondary, and he was about 25 yards from Tyler Johnson and Kevin King. If it was that obvious, and if it had to be called, why did it take seconds after the play was over? And why did it take the Bucs offensive players yelling at you for you to throw the flag? It was the latest flag I've seen in a very, very long time. I mean, like, to the point to where you're like, you're going to throw it that late? I was ready to say, like, Joe Buck was saying, like, there's no flags. And then it was like, oh, okay, there's one. You can't tell me that if it's that obvious and if it was that blatant to where it needs to be called, why you threw it 10 seconds after the play is over. And 10 seconds after that jersey was tugged. Because at the very end, if it was based on the contact, there's no pass interference call. Tyler Johnson is an Oscar-winning actor for his performance in that play. It's the right call for him to be flagged for the tug, but why wasn't the flag called or thrown immediately after that? Why was it thrown after Tyler Johnson looked at you and said, "Well, aren't you going to call that?" And then you threw the flag. That's my only problem with this play. If it was called immediately and it was thrown before the play is over, we have no reason to argue this call. If you're the Green Bay Packers, if you're an NFL fan who doesn't want to see Tom Brady go to another Super Bowl, you cannot just say, well, I mean, you can make an argument that wasn't a penalty. It's like, no, that was definitely a penalty, and it should have been called immediately, not after the fact. Now, in that moment, I said, this game has been ruined because you have been consistent all game long about not calling the flags, not calling contact, pass interference, holding in the secondary. You've been consistent all game long. You've missed some penalties, but I think overall, if you're saying we're just not, like, the NBA bubble referees last year during the playoffs, I think did a really good job for the majority of those games saying we're not going to determine whether this game happens on our terms. Maybe like the Miami Heat for the Milwaukee Bucks, like there was that one game to where they allowed free throws at the very end of the game. Like Jimmy Butler hit those free throws to win the game. Other than that game and that quarter, really, I didn't feel like the refs determined the outcomes of these games. I feel like it happens a lot more often in the NFL. It's very hard. It's a very tricky line to play. So I was good with the fact that they're not calling it consistently. And then all of a sudden, on the most important game of or the most important play of the game, you do that. That's what I was mad about at the very moment that it happened. Then I slept on it. And then I watched it again. And I said, the only problem I have with this is that he called it late. If Tyler Johnson does not argue, or if he isn't flamboyant in the flop, is it called or not? That's my only issue with that. Because if he didn't do that, like I said, there's a strong chance that they wouldn't have called it because of how late it was. And maybe he didn't see it. Maybe he didn't see the jersey tug. Maybe it was just like bang, bang play. They're wearing white jerseys. It may have gotten confused with the lineman jerseys. I don't know. But I just feel like if it wasn't for Tyler Johnson and the Bucs arguing that play after the fact, that isn't called. And the Packers get the ball back down 5 with, like 1 timeout left. And just over like a minute 30, I think, or under a minute 30, around that range. I'm believing in Aaron Rodgers to get the game-winning drive and the Packers move on. But it's because of the argument after and the lateness of this flag that I have an issue with. Now, overall, does it determine the outcome of the game? Absolutely not, because if it wasn't for that, we're saying that the refs did a phenomenal job of not calling everything based on contact. If we were just calling every hold, every pass interference, we would be here all day long. But if you just take out that one play, I think we say that the referees did a phenomenal job of not involving themselves in this game. But it was because of that one play. I'm saying that if you're a Packers fan and you're saying because of that call, we don't make the Super Bowl, you are ridiculously idiotic. You've had plenty of chances in this game to get back into it. Not only that, to lead in this game and to win this game based on the 3 turnovers, based on the fact that you've had 3 opportunities to score touchdowns in those turnovers. You gave up the worst, one of the worst touchdowns like this playoffs with Scotty Miller and Kevin King. Kevin King probably put one of the worst performances in recent history as far as a cornerback goes. He was completely dominated by anybody on the field. And it looked sad. It really was sad that Kevin King had a terrible performance like this. You could say that Aaron Rodgers did not play to his fullest potential because he did miss open receivers. He missed a wide open lane to the end zone for a touchdown on that run. And for the 3-headed monster that is the Green Bay Packers running attack, 67 yards just doesn't do it for me. Like Leonard Fournette was a better running back than all 3 of those guys combined, in my opinion. So, overall, as I go 30 minutes with this game, it was a game. It was what needed to happen. The Bucs were the better team that day. They deserved it. And the Green Bay Packers had plenty of opportunities to get back in this football game, and they didn't. So that's on them. So once again, they go back-to-back years of being disappointing in the NFC Championship. And if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I'm saying I'm out. There's no reason for me to stay. I said it on Twitter. And if you're, the only good argument I heard was like, well, like where else do you feel like it changes a lot to where your chances of winning Super Bowl are better? You're 26-6 with Matt LaFleur. You made it to the NFC Championship, which a lot of teams would take. Like even if they don't make the Super Bowl, they would take an NFC Championship appearance, like the Cowboys. But it's like it's Super Bowl or bust for the Green Bay Packers. You can't tell me that this is a win for the Packers as far as their overall season when they have Aaron Rodgers and they have a really good football team. I don't think you could have done anything else to add on. And if you're one of those people that says, well, if they had another receiver, then we would be probably looking at the Packers winning because he would have had another option to go to other than Devontae Adams. I'm saying no. I'm not on this train. Like, overall, do I think Aaron Rodgers deserved another weapon? Like a first-round draft pick wide receiver? 100% this year, yeah, because of how many great receivers came out of the draft. And they went Jordan Love with the first-round draft pick. You could have had T. Higgins. You could have Brandon Ayuk. But if the highest pick that you've had for a wide receiver is Equanimus St. Brown, and he added nothing to this game, like, if your biggest free agent from this year is Tavon Austin, which, by the way, is one of the most meaningless pickups that the Packers, like, I just don't understand why the Packers picked Tavon Austin up. You have Jamal Williams taking back kickoffs. I only saw Tavon Austin as a punt returner, and he had, 2 or 3 chances? Didn't do anything with them. Why is Tavon Austin on a team anymore? I'm sorry, but like ever since the Rams, has he done anything productive? I don't feel like we're seeing the same West Virginia Tavon Austin anymore. And it's one of the most meaningless moves we've seen all season. But if that's your free agency pickup, if that's all you got to offer, why the hell would Aaron Rodgers stay? Why? We're gonna do an episode on the possible destinations for Aaron Rodgers and ultimately the main reason why he's leaving tomorrow. But I mean, this is just ridiculous. I can't explain to you how bad I feel for Aaron Rodgers, who literally changed his entire life this offseason, and all you gave him was Jordan Love, the replacement to him once he leaves. Whether he retires or goes to another team, Jordan Love's our guy. Instead of getting T. Higgins, Brandon Ayuk, Justin Jefferson, whatever. You could just name 10 receivers this year that came from the draft, and they would have been amazing with the Green Bay Packers. Or in free agency before the trade deadline. Imagine getting Will Fuller, which he was suspended, but I mean, there's also some other guys out there that you could have made a move for, but you didn't. You felt like Allen Lazard, Mercedes Lewis, and Marquez Valdes-Scantling gave you the best opportunity to win. They're great receivers, but guess what? Aaron Rodgers had to force the ball sometimes, and that's because there was no separation with Allen Lazard. There was no separation with Valdes-Scantling. He had a great day. Could have been better, though. Just saying. I'm just saying. So the Bucs move on. Tom Brady goes to his 10th Super Bowl. The better team won today, plain and simple. I think the idea that the refs cost them this game, if you're the Packers, you can't make that argument. I watched the game twice, and I just don't believe it. You had plenty of opportunities to win. You had plenty of opportunities to win without the refs. Let's talk briefly about the Bills and Chiefs. I'll be honest. I stopped watching after the Kansas City Chiefs scored, what was it, 28? I think it was 28. No, it was 31. It was 31. Once they scored that touchdown to go up 31-15, I was like, there's no point in this. Just tell me, man. Like, does anybody else get the sense that the Chiefs are just so damn good that they purposely allow these teams to go up on them? Whether it's 9 for the Bills, whether it's 24 against the Houston Texans, don't they just allow them just to make it more intriguing for them? I just feel like they just turn on the switch of like, okay, we're done. We're done playing around. Let's just score 30 on them. That's how I felt in this game. I mean, the performance that Josh Allen put together is very similar to what he put up in Week 6 on their first matchup. I felt like he was trying to force the ball more than usual by throwing it harder, by throwing it in a very tight window that you wouldn't on a regular season game. And he was making mistakes. He did throw the interception. It just felt like Josh Allen wanted to do a little bit more. Now, what I wanted to see out of the Buffalo Bills coming into this game, and I didn't talk about it on the preview, but it was just for me forgetting. But the fact that I think they could have utilized the read option a little bit more. With Josh Allen's running ability and the fact that I truly believe that the Buffalo Bills are a Super Bowl contender if they are having a good running day with Devin Singletary and Zach Moss. Zach Moss didn't play in this game, so it was TJ Yeldon. Don't forget about him. He had to step up as the second guy. Devin Singletary early in this game, and that's what really helped their 9-0 lead, is that Devin Singletary had a good chunk of yardage on a lot of his runs. And then it just felt like, okay, we're going to go to maybe the read option. They had like a third down conversion with the read option, and Josh Allen kept it. I was like, okay, this is a nice incorporation of the playbook that maybe the Chiefs haven't seen in the past. Immediately, the Chiefs picked that up and sent 2 guys on Josh Allen and let the rest pick up Devin Singletary. And they stopped it immediately. And I just couldn't explain to you how quick the coaching staff, Andy Reid, and this defense just took that away. They immediately take that away after like the first and second drive. After that, there was no way you're running a read option. And of course, the mistake by McCole Hardman on that punt return. He bobbled the ball. They get at the 1-yard line. I mean, that sucks to be at that stage and to make that mistake. But it's just a matter of how you come back from that. I will say the meme of him throwing the jacket on top of him after he got on the bench. One of the funniest things, I laughed out loud as soon as that happened. But McCole Hardman just balled out after that, right? Like, he had that one carry for 50 yards. He had some really good receptions that just were a bunch of chunk yardage. And it felt like the momentum is switching. And Tony Romo with his momentum, man, you felt it change. The Chiefs are just too damn good, man. Darrell Williams did a good job of stepping up. Like, Clyde Edwards-Helaire did play in this game, but with a high ankle sprain, coming back from that, it was his first game back since the Saints game in the regular season. He wasn't going to be involved that much, so I felt like Darrell Williams did a really good job of stepping up. He ran hard. He ran really well. It's kind of like a Damian Williams from last year, and you didn't have to take over the game with your running ability, but you just had to do enough. And it allowed the offensive game and the passing game to open up and spread apart with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. I don't understand how you covered Travis Kelce. Don't understand it. Because there was multiple times in this game to where Travis Kelce had no one around him. Absolutely no one around him. Bills defense did all they could. They don't have a playmaker. They don't have that star on their defense. They have really good individuals, especially in the secondary, on their linebackers. They are really good players, but they're not Tyrann Mathieu. They're not Frank Clark or Chris Jones level. That's what Kansas City has that Buffalo isn't. And Buffalo is just like a few pieces away from being a phenomenal team. I am proud for this Buffalo Bills team to make it this far. They are a really good football team with a really bright future. You're just not the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, aren't we all just kind of like ashamed of ourselves for saying like, oh God, we just want to see somebody else win other than New England Patriots? Can we see somebody else other than Tom Brady? Well, it's a blessing and a curse because you got what you want, but now it's just the younger version of that with the Kansas City Chiefs. How can I break this game down other than just the fact that it just looked easy for the Kansas City Chiefs? Buffalo just played contain. They just tried to not give up the big play, even though they gave up the big play. I said that their game plan on defense should be give up the yards, and then as soon as you get inside the 20, stiffen up. You got to be physical down there. Well, I think the Kansas City Chiefs went like 100% in red zone efficiency. They were 5 of 6. I'm so sorry. You know what? Podcast over. I'm so ashamed of myself for not knowing that. While the Bills were 2 of 5 in the red zone, they settled for a lot of field goals. Sad, but it's they're too damn good, man. Tell me how, even with Sammy Watkins out in this game, how you think you can double cover Tyreek Hill, who still had 172 yards with all that attention, with Travis Kelce with 118 yards and 2 touchdowns, had all the attention. He was targeted 15 times. And then it's not even the half of it. You guys still cover Pringle, who had a good couple of receptions in this game. Darrell Williams, McCole Hardman. How can you stop all of these guys, right? How can you stop them? It's just a matter if the Chiefs beat themselves. I just sense a Golden State Warriors mentality. It's like you'll do enough to get by, and then when you really got to turn it up in the finals, oh, we're just going to score 150 on you. It's easy. Like, we're just going to shoot threes all day, and we're going to make them. They're the Golden State Warriors. Patrick Mahomes is the Steph Curry. He doesn't have to do everything always. You know, occasionally he'll just throw 400 yards because he wants to, but when it comes down to the busy moments of his season, AFC Championship, Super Bowl, big matchups throughout the year, dude's like, I'm ready, and I'm going to perform. There's no doubt about it. This man was playing with a bad toe and was coming off concussion protocol. He's not 100%, and yet nothing changed. Nothing felt different about this Chiefs team. Bills did their best. They could have played better, but ultimately, what does that do for you? You just got a garbage time touchdown, and that's it. Cole Beasley had a pretty good game. This man played with a broken leg, and he had 88 yards on 7 receptions. He had a broken leg. What else are you going to do for that? Stephon Diggs had an all right day. TJ Yeldon got involved in the passing game. Dawson Knox had that touchdown to get up 9-0. What else can you do? Tell me what else can you do other than try to outscore the Kansas City Chiefs, and they make mistakes. They beat themselves. Nothing you can do about it. Absolutely nothing. I don't know what else to say about this game, man. But, okay, there is one more thing I want to talk about. How in the hell does Steve Spagnuolo, I need a reasoning of how to say his name. I need a clarification on how to say his name. Because I've heard both. And I heard both during the broadcast. I don't understand it. Let's just say Spagnuolo because it's spelled Spagnuolo. Steve Spagnuolo goes the entire season giving up a lot of yards through to the run and is kind of middle of the pack when it comes to defense, total defense. Doesn't create the most turnovers, doesn't create the least turnovers, gives up yardage, but stiffens up in the red zone. But still, like, you've seen some teams score on the Kansas City Chiefs defense. And something about the playoffs just makes Tyrann Mathieu, Bashaud Breeland, L'Jarius Sneed, by the way, one of their rookies, played phenomenal in this game. And he was dealing with some injuries early on in his season. But this dude showed up yesterday. They just completely did a great job of stopping the passing game and forced Josh Allen to make bad decisions, bad throws. And they did get a good job of getting to the quarterback. Their defensive front is not talked about enough. I mean, you got Frank Clark and you got Chris Jones, but I don't think it's talked about enough. That secondary, man, is one of the reasons why they did great last year in the playoffs. And honestly, they're not given enough credit for what they did in the Super Bowl. But just somehow they don't play great in the regular season. When it comes down to the postseason, they step up. They show up. And they're only getting better. Like, they literally add Sneed. And you think to yourself, how could it get any better than Tyrann Mathieu and Breeland? Like, those are just a few names. But then you add some wild rookie who is fast, who is quick, and is physical and making plays. Dude. Look, we got a matchup in the Super Bowl that maybe not everybody's happy with. But it's a perfect story of passing the torch. Tom Brady leaves the AFC to go to the NFC because Kansas City Chiefs are on the rise. They're now the new New England Patriots as far as a dynasty goes. So there was a passing the torch there of who's going to be the AFC guy. Well, now we just get NFC versus AFC, and it's Tom Brady versus Patrick Mahomes. Possibly for the last time, maybe. But we see old generation, new generation. We're seeing the Xbox 360. Actually, no, that's not a good comparison. What's a good one? You think little goat versus big goat, old goat. It's a John Cena versus The Rock. Could that be it? What's the best old goat to new goat? Interesting. We got to think about that. We got to think of the best one before the Super Bowl actually happens. I was about to say Patriots. It's Bucks versus Chiefs Super Bowl. Tampa Bay Bucks will host it. And I don't know. That whole prediction about it being the highest scoring Super Bowl of all time, which, by the way, is held at 75 points, which doesn't seem like a lot to me, considering how good offenses are nowadays. But I don't know if I can do it anymore. If it was Packers versus Chiefs, Packers versus Bills, I'd say, yeah, let's put up 80. Let's put up 90. But now, Bucks and Chiefs, I say like 32-35. I feel like that's a good score. But I'm not feeling the pizzazz anymore. I'm not feeling it. Well, people, that's gonna do it. Give me your thoughts. Give me your opinion on what happened in the Packers game. Is it based on the refs? Is it based on that the Packers just shit the bed? Give me your thoughts. Let me know. This is going to do it for this episode of the Bubble Blood Sports Podcast. I hope you enjoyed. And make sure to follow, subscribe, share it, do all that stuff. I am going to drink water because I am tired from the gym. And I will see you next time on the Boba Let Sports Podcast.
Yeah, hold on. Tell me who's your top 5 quarterbacks right now, dead or alive, huh? And how much do you care about a ring if the best player got carried by the team? Now would you lose if it been a better draft pick? And do you cuss when your team get their ass?